Welcome to Public House, intimate conversations with people making a difference in the Hudson Valley. And now, from Paula's Public House in Poughkeepsie, New York, here's Paula Young.
Hi, I'm Paula Young. Today we are taking Public House on the road, and we have come to the offices of Dutchess County Executive Marcus Molinaro to discuss the opioid epidemic crisis and what is going on to stem the tide. Marcus, welcome again.
Well, thank you.
Public House.
Sure, happy to be back on. Welcome to the office.
Thank you. It's a very nice office indeed.
Thank you.
All right, so I want to ask you a bunch of questions.
Sure, let's jump right in.
All right. The other day, I had two women and a young man come into the restaurant to Public House, and their nephew has overdosed, has been in jail, has come out of jail, and has now relapsed. And they sobbed. And it was heartbreaking. A week and a half ago, a young man drove his car into the side of my restaurant. He was high on heroin and overdosed. It took 3 doses of Narcan to bring him back. The most touching thing I got out of the meeting with the two women and the young man, who's 13, who attends a local high school, is that he can buy drugs in any hall in his school.
Yeah.
And he burst into tears. And he said, it shouldn't be like that.
No.
Their mother, his mother said, it shouldn't be like that. Now, you have I think in 2017 in December, you guys had a 30-person sit-down with Sue Serino, and you talked about how to fix it. And I think it's $25 million this year and another $1 million that Sean Patrick Maloney just announced. And we're building a brand new jail facility that has treatment centers. So we're putting a bandage on a gunshot wound. How do you go into the schools and stop it where it begins?
Yeah. Well, first we're losing.
Yes.
I mean, there's no question we're losing. While that isn't unique to Dutchess County, as a society, as a nation, we're losing the battle. Last year, 93 individuals lost their lives in Dutchess because of drug-related overdoses. The least we did was sit in a room and come up with ideas. I mean, that's the least of the things we did. So how do we get to the root causes? First, I will say that the heroin and opioid addiction, it is an epidemic. It's the public health crisis of our lifetime. Opioids change your brain. Unlike, and I don't want to classify drugs, but opioids change the compounds of your brain, and your brain tells you.
As opposed to alcoholism, which is a whole different story.
Right. So to those who say, oh, it's a choice, or once you're hooked, you're hooked.
So it's an initial choice.
It is.
It's an initial choice to do something that potentially could.
So what drives an individual to make that choice? And I often say when I speak to groups, we spend a lot of time talking about the last day. So I'm glad we're not at the moment. The last day is the overdose. And it's important to mourn loss. There's no question. But it's important that we, more importantly, talk about the first day. What is the thing that triggered the individual? So to that point, Dutchess County isn't in charge of school districts, and so we have limited impact, but this is what we are doing. 11 of 13 school districts in Dutchess now are using our mental health first aid training program. So we're training teachers, professionals, and others to first identify individuals who are either dealing or doing, and then connect them with services or law enforcement if necessary. We have school resource officers in every school district in Dutchess County.
Okay, hold on. The DARE program, which is an older program, which still demonizes marijuana as the gateway drug, which now they're legalizing marijuana so that, no one's stupid. They think that doesn't make sense, is not in every school in Dutchess.
DARE is different. So
that's basic drug information to children.
Now, I believe in the DARE program. The state of New York ended its support for DARE because they pretty much trivialized it. They said, this only say, just say no argument. Now, first of all, just say no is a good place to start, right? I mean, the problem with DARE had been that it was funded through the end of elementary school, but once you got into middle schools and high school, it went away. Our program is not DARE. We acknowledge that, but what it is, and it's different than DARE, is instead of bringing somebody else in to tell you the ills of drug use, this is actually training both teachers, administrators, and students about the effects of addiction and how to prevent usage and then intervene when and if you have an individual is dealing with addiction. So that's our initiative. It's entirely funded by Dutchess County.
Is it active now?
Oh yes, in 11 to 13 school districts, we train on social emotional skills, we train on mental health first aid, and we train on addiction. So it could be a 40-hour program, it could be an 8-hour training program, and what we're doing is empowering people to be engaged. the end of the day, the problem that we have is there are far too many people who don't get engaged in the issue until it's too late. Moms and dads who worry that their kid may be taking pills don't want to acknowledge it. Family members know that there's somebody in their family circle that they don't want to talk about. So the stigma is still there.
Well, I was told the other day in discussion, because I've been discussing this a lot in advance of this interview, is that drug addiction is a family problem. And if it's a family problem, it's obviously left the family and now has become a societal problem.
Yeah.
Correct? So these 11 school districts, how many people in the school are responsible for teaching, let's say, Arlington High School, which is 4,000 kids?
Yeah.
How many people in that school are doing this job?
Well, it's different than, so DARE is a class, right? This is actually teaching people how to acknowledge and understand it every day. So it's not like we set an hour off and say, let's talk about addiction. It's interacting with students every single day, identifying where we can those who are either dealing or doing, and that's important. But I acknowledge it's not enough. But let me just offer to you what we've seen though, and it's out and it's bigger than us. The fragmentation of our social networks is what's hurting us the most. You know, neighborhoods. First, it was individuals, right, and then your family unit, and then beyond your family unit was your neighborhood. And beyond your neighborhood was your community, and then government stepped in. The fact that we have kids who are interconnected with the entire world, instant communication, instant gratification, instant being horrified or tormented, all of that has made the world so big that the influence that mom and dad and the neighbor next door and grandma down the road used to have isn't there anymore.
I agree.
And so families feel weak, they feel powerless. And so at the end of the day, you know, the root solution is strengthening those social networks. The problem is, you know, we're one place of billions. So for us, it's trying to give the tools to individuals who would have the a trusted source, right? The direct impact. So it could be a school teacher. It's why our stabilization center and our helpline is available to families all over the county. It's why we do outreach all over the county to families as well. We are doing more than most counties in America. We're just losing.
Okay, so the schools where you can buy any drug you want, we need that to end. When I was in the 7th grade at Jane Long Elementary in Houston, Texas, the police were always in people's lockers.
Yeah.
And that's in 1972. And then it was just basically LSD and marijuana. Now, if you can get any drug you want in the schools, where are the police in the schools? Is that something that we could consider?
Well, we do. So Dutchess County provides the school districts that want them. We can't force a school district to take a school resource officer, but the school districts that want them, we partner with them to provide school resource officers. So there is an officer in Arlington, there's an officer in Wappingers, there's an officer in Paulding, there's an officer in Red Hook, and in other districts across.
And the drugs are being dealt right under his nose.
Yeah, I would also offer to you there's drugs being dealt in jails too. The problem is they are all porous. At the end of the day, enforcement helps. But the addict finds a way. The seller finds a way, and
Seller finds a way. So what about? And the thing is that you're only government. And I realize that what happens is when there's a panic in the family, and you say we need help, they throw the problem onto government. Government can only do so much.
This is one of those problems where government in this county is probably doing as much as government can do, but we need the families to engage.
Right. Well, there used to be a time when my mom would be home when I would come home from school, and so she would keep an eye. My mother went through my stuff.
Yeah.
I never took drugs as a kid. My mother still went through my stuff because she wondered. Parents come home tired. They put something, or they get a pizza, or they put something in the microwave, they make dinner. Parents are tired. Kids have the internet, and the internet tells you that the world is coming to an end and everything's dark and bad, causing depression perhaps. And they can get drugs anywhere.
Well, worse yet, and I won't take this terribly too far afield, but the social media networks, they use algorithms that actually trigger addiction in your brain to begin with.
Absolutely.
I mean, Instagram was identified as actually being able to put before you pictures in your feed that actually triggers you to look for more pictures. Now, the only point of saying that is that we're becoming so disconnected. We're not going to wheel back time. I mean, it's just not going to happen. But we do need families, and we need families to have the tools to be able to engage, to be helpful. So what we say is, you cannot be an innocent bystander. You cannot simply sit and watch somebody in your life deal with addiction and not interact. Where government in this county is helpful is we give you the tools. But it's like anything else. I mean, I tell people, this is my analogy. You know, my dad's a mechanic, right? He's got tools in his garage. They're all over the place, and they're dirty, and they're messy. Come to my garage, the tools are all nicely put in place because I'm not a mechanic, and I barely know how to use them. We have really good tools in Dutchess, but we need people to get them messy and to use them. And so, for instance, your experience, yes, important. Get us there. Put the mental health first aid. Get us the recovery coaches. We have these folks who want to be seated at the bar talking to somebody because we got to go where the addicts are. We got to go where the families are struggling because we got to give them the tool to use. Otherwise, they stay in the garage nice and neat. And that's one of our problems. And it isn't just Dutchess's problem. It's our problem. There is still a real stigma associated with addiction. And people don't want to acknowledge it. But the dealer, while the dealer's committing a crime, and yes, we have to, you know the way this works. We have an eight-person drug task force in this county. It's, by the way, it's one of the only that is countywide in the state. Multiple police agencies, but we find the kid at school is dealing. And listen, I'm not in law enforcement. We know the way this works. We go up the food chain. So if you immediately take action against the person at the lowest end of the food chain, you may lose the ability to stop the spread to begin with. And we've uncovered major dealings in this community, and you've seen it all across the region. But drugs and the power of addiction is so much and so corrosive that we can't just win by closing the, in essence, coming crashing down on the enforcement with enforcement.
We admit that the problem is the horse is out of the barn. So give me, in closing, because I wish we could talk longer, but
this is it. I feel like we haven't.
In closing, give me 3 or 4 solid steps. In order.
In order?
Yes, in order.
So for us, it's the social, emotional, and school district training. That's sort of in order.
And that's already in place.
That we're doing now, and we have been for 2 years, 3 years now. So that's growing. Second is the helpline, stabilization, crisis intervention. Helpline is 485-9700. You can call or text 485-9700. Mental health professionals on the other end of the phone every day, all day, where you can say, my cousin is dealing with X. I'm dealing with addiction. What help is there? Stabilization Center, 24/7, only one of its kind in the state of New York, only of its kind in America. You can walk through the door and say, I have an issue, or I have a friend who has an issue. We have a mobile team that'll go out to you. So step 1 is, right, social emotional. Step 2 is using those broader tools to engage. Third is medication-assisted treatment. We are expanding that with great success. 85% success rate. Those who are dealing with addiction, if they are in a medication-assisted treatment program, 85% of them achieve sobriety, which means they're controlling their addiction. We're actually training people in the community to be able to administer MAT, so that at the end of the day, it's not just you have to go to a clinic to do it, but it could be your family physician, it could be your local pharmacist, and then enforcement. The use of the drug task force in a way that is trying to get to at least up the food chain in sales and try to limit that from happening.
Well, I read David Courtwright had written several books on addiction, and his ending statement in an article I read said, well, either they're all going to die or they're just going to figure out a way to stop. And that's kind of a very cynical and dark solution.
Yeah, our answer is, and I say this, you cannot be an innocent bystander.
Correct.
You cannot be at home and simply think that someone else is going to intervene. So you need to summon the courage, you need to put aside the stigma, and you need to acknowledge, by the way, that we're probably going to fail more often than we succeed, but that life, that individual needs you to step in. They need you to step in, and Dutchess County will give you the tools to help.
Families are sobbing and screaming and frustrated, and I hope that everyone who's watching this, talk to your kids. At minimum, talk to your kids. At maximum, be what my mother was. Go through their stuff, look, and then make a phone call. Marcus, as always, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And let's hope that together we can find some way to stop this.
We can save lives.
Yes.
We can save lives.
Yes, thank you. I'm Paula Young. This is the end of this episode of Public House, and I will see you again soon. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Paula Young, and I'm the proprietor here of Paula's Public House. Do join me for good food, good cheer, and good fellowship. We are here, we have fun, and we'd love to have you be a part of it. Come on down.